What's up, everyone? It is Tyler with Mom's Basement MMA. I am on episode 89 of the show. Be sure to check out my last episode where I had on Miss Glory Watson, really cool chick from Maine, and I liked her story. But today I am several hundred miles south of there. I am in the Chattanooga, Tennessee area with Jazy Sergeant. Jazy, how are you doing on this ridiculously cold January morning? At least where I am, it's ridiculously cold.
I'm doing well. I'm glad I'm not outside.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I don't think I'd really wish that on anyone right now. You have, Miss Sargent, a date with somebody on January 29th. There will be violence. You are the co-main event for All or Nothing Fights 1, and that will be occurring in Soddy-Daisey, Tennessee. If you are in that area right now and you want to see that event, you're probably screwed. By the time you're actually listening to this, because I'm sure all the tickets are gone. So I don't really know what to tell you. Yeah, you're screwed. You should have bought them earlier.
There's only a couple tickets left, so if anybody does want to buy any of the remainders, there's no cage side or anything special, but we do have a couple general admissions left.
Couple GAs. So, you get what you get. No complaining. You waited too long. Jazy, this is a big deal. All or Nothing Fights. This is a promotion that your friend Billy Swanson stood up. I actually had Billy on the show a few months ago, and he told me during that show, he's like, yeah, I'm starting my own promotion. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever, man. And then, he did, and all of a sudden I'm hearing all this news, and I hit him up, and I was like, if this is going to be your first card, I want to talk to a couple of your fighters, and here I am, I'm talking with you. Can you talk, before we talk about the event itself and your co-main event slot, Jazy, can you talk a little bit about everything leading up to this? This is your mixed martial arts debut, but you have a lot of experience in jiu-jitsu stuff. I know you've done a bunch of other things in the past. Can you talk about how long have you been preparing for this bout? How long have you been getting yourself ready for this?
Like I said, I did have 3 months notice, so that's always good. I was supposed to fight in September, but it's actually really hard to find people in my weight class, which is 105 normally. So I had to go up to 115, but it's still like a scarce pool of women that fight at that weight. So I finally got an opponent, had 2.5 months notice. So I've been training consistently, probably 6, sometimes 7 days a week, anywhere from like 2 to 4, maybe even 5 hours a day. So I've been training really hard in fight camp. And then prior to that, I've been striking since January of last year. So I'm kind of still new to the striking. But I've been doing jiu-jitsu for almost 3 years now. And that's like my bread and butter. So I feel like I'm really comfortable in that aspect because most fights do end on the ground. And I was training that consistently like 5 days a week since almost 3 Octobers ago.
Wow.
So I've been putting a lot of time in, so I'm feeling really good for this.
I think one thing that's really interesting about it is, yes, it's your first amateur bout, but I think you have like a sneaky amount of like experience under your belt that people may not necessarily know about unless they do their homework on you, like I have. Do you feel like you're going up against a gal? Her name is Alexis Teague. Do you know much about her? Do you know anything about like her experience or what type of style of fighter she might be?
I'm not sure a lot. I mean, she's the new opponent. She, took this fight with 2 weeks notice, so I have only respect for her for doing that. It really helped out Billy and myself. I've sold like 120 tickets, so I really needed this to come through. But I don't really know much about her with 2 weeks notice. I know that her husband is actually, had like 40 fights. He is a bare knuckle boxer, fights with them. He's also fought for Valor and a whole bunch of other promotions that are local in the Southeast. And I mean, like I said, I don't really know much about her. This is also her AMI debut. I mean, from what I've heard, she's been striking for probably about the same time as me. So I don't know about her jiu-jitsu or anything like that.
And maybe it's better you don't. Maybe it's one of those situations where the less you know, maybe the better off you are. I think
For sure.
right? Because I think some people, they might have that temptation to like get way too in the weeds on somebody, and that's great to be knowledgeable, but at the same time you could take it a little too far, and then before you know it, like, you're psyching yourself out or losing confidence, or maybe getting too confident based off of stuff that happened in the past.
True. My last opponent, for example, she was a boxer. So for the past almost 2.5 months, I trained, a lot of striking and haven't really trained a lot of jujitsu just because I knew my opponent had been boxing since 2017. So I worked a lot of, defense with a taller like boxer basically. And now I don't know anything about this girl. So I'm like, maybe I should have just, continued to be well-rounded in all aspects. So yeah, it's kind of, I kind of wish I never researched either one of them.
Hey, no, I completely understand. It makes sense to me. I think it's one of those things where it's like the people in your circle, like your coach. I assume your coach is Billy. It's like you guys figure that stuff out. You guys look at that stuff. I'm here to fight, and you tell me what I need to do and what I need to know, and I'll listen to the instructions. But my plan is to fight. Like, my job's not to look at film. That's your job.
Yeah. Yes. I love it because my coaches come up with game plans for me. So, it takes the research for myself out of the picture.
Jazy, can you talk a little bit? How did you get into the MMA gym that you're in? And can you talk a little bit about your relationship with Billy? Billy is the man. I love that guy. I found out about him when he got called up to Bellator, and I saw the fight, and I immediately wanted to know more about him. One of the coolest, most humble guys I think I've ever talked to since I've been doing this. I love that guy, and in my conversations with him, you're the name that keeps coming up. So can you talk a little bit about Billy, and can you talk a little bit about the gym that you're training at?
I met Billy through a mutual friend. My friend, since I was like 17, he opened his own jiu-jitsu gym called Southside Jiu-Jitsu. The first day that I showed up, Billy was there. I had no idea who he was. We were just rolling around and stuff. Keep in mind, I didn't know any jiu-jitsu at the time. I knew a little bit of wrestling from like middle school and stuff like that. But he thought I was just going to be, a tiny, I'm like 5 foot tall, barely 110 pounds at the time. And he told me he thought I was going to be like an easy roll because, he was like a purple belt at the time in jiu-jitsu. And, he's like 265. Well, I get to him and I'm like, give it all I can to do what I don't even know what I was trying to do. But after he was like, wow, you have a lot of potential. And I was like, well, thank you. I don't know what I'm doing. But like ever since that day, he's kind of like kept it in my head that, I can really go somewhere with combat sports. And we became like best friends, honestly. After the day, we would all go out together, after training. And we just really got really close. And then this last January, he was like, hey, I want to talk to you. Or actually, it was probably like November of not this November, but the year prior.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, hey, can I talk to you? And I was like, yeah, sure. He was like, I'm going to open a gym. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to support you, whatever you need. And he was like, I want you to run a fitness kickboxing class out of there. And I was like, well, that's perfect. I'm getting my personal trainer, license. I can definitely do that for you. He was like, it's going to be great. And I was like, dude, I trust you. You have the knowledge, like, whatever you need. So flash forward to January, the building that he got there was nothing in there.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. So me and him and a couple of his friends, we built that entire gym from like concrete.
Wow.
And it took us, we probably started at the end or the beginning of December, and then we finished a month and a week later. Like, it was crazy how fast we did all that compared to what it was. I don't know if you've seen the pictures before and after of his gym, but
I haven't.
It's just amazing how fast we put that together. And his like dream gym he like created. I mean, it's not the biggest gym, but it's literally beautiful. But yeah, that's just kind of how, you know, I met him, and we just kind of really bonded, and he's helped me get to where I'm at. So is my other coach, who's also best friends with Billy. Both of them have really like helped me get where I am, and I'm still like moving up with the sport.
I think that's something else. And what else is so cool for people who don't know, this All or Nothing Fight promotion is his, and it's the very first event. We already kind of talked a little bit about how you should have gotten your tickets because it's very, very popular. A lot of people are going to be there. You are the co-main event for the very first fight that he's putting on, and it's your mixed martial arts debut. So I sit back, I look at all this stuff, and I'm thinking, I'm pretending I'm you. I'm like, okay, number one, it's nerve-wracking to make a debut for anything. I don't care what it is. If the public's watching you and it's a debut, it's your first time doing something, I don't care if it's a basketball game, I don't care if it's a fight, there are going to be nerves that are going to be involved. When you sit back and you look at all of this, do you ever like think like, wow, this is kind of crazy, I need to kind of focus in on me and make sure I don't get frazzled? Like, how are you keeping all your shit together? Because I think I would be kind of freaking out a little bit if I were you.
Well, I've played sports since I was like 5 years old. So, you know, even if it's like recreational softball, you know, that doesn't mean anything. I mean, every game, you know, you get nerves for everything you do. And I've just played sports year round. So I think that helps a lot with the competitive edge.
Sure.
People usually get, you know, freaked out when it comes to competing. And don't get me wrong, competing in a sport where it's not a team, you know, it's just me, everybody
Right.
watching me. It is a lot harder, you know, to deal with. And mostly what gets me, it's not the nerves of what I'm doing, because I'm comfortable, you know, doing combat sports. I mean, I don't really care to get punched in the face. I spar with grown men and stuff like that. It's more of I've sold 120 tickets to a local event. This is my first AMA debut. I don't know how it's going to feel to walk out, you know, in front of 120 people that I know. You know, this is my hometown, and that's really where the pressure is coming from me right now. Is, you know, I don't want to get out there and you know, kind of break mentally, but at the same time, I know I'm not going to do that. But it's just like a worry that you keep in your head about it. And I think that's really, you know, what gets to a lot of fighters is not that, you know, they can't compete well in a different environment. I think the environment of having, you know, anywhere from 100 to 1,000 to 100,000 people watching you gets to a lot of fighters.
I think that's just a normal part of being a human. At your fight, there's going to be people that are trying to go to the bathroom. People are like looking for the hot dog beer guy. Like, there's only going to be a handful of people that are like fixated on what's going on. I hope that kind of like is something that you think about. And on the day itself, we actually got a few questions. You're such a badass. You like find cars that are parked and you randomly sit on them. I think that's so freaking cool. Nobody's gonna do shit about it anyway. I think it's freaking fantastic. So, other than sitting on random people's vehicles, I wanted to ask you, or one of the questions was, on the day of the fight, like, what are some things that you're going to go through to prepare for the fight? I think it's kind of an open-ended question. I think that's what their intent was. So we'll just kind of like leave it open-ended. So what are some of the key things that you're going to do to get ready for that fight? Like, do you warm up a certain way?
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
I'm definitely a fighter that can't just go out there well rested. Anytime I start training, lifting weights or rolling or sparring, I'm not in my prime until after a couple rounds, unless I've warmed up first. I hate going into anything cold. My muscles ache. I'm tight. My breath isn't, you know, I can't breathe as clear. And so what I do normally is I do a little workout, like a little circuit workout.
Mm-hmm.
I stretch for at least an hour before any of those activities. And then I like to sprint or, you know, do a half-mile run to just get my blood pumping. But I've kind of mapped out fight day. I'm probably going to wake up sleep in. I mean, there's no reason not to.
Mm-hmm.
Wake up, go on like a mild jog, nothing crazy. Kick back, relax, eat some healthy food, and then when I get to the gym, that's when I'm still gonna just kick back. I mean, I'm not probably gonna fight until 10 p.m. that night. So Billy was like, "Hey, I just want you to relax." He also knows like I need a certain type of warm up, which is so weird. Everyone's different though,
Right?
But in my case, it is a little odd. So he was like, "I want you to relax until probably about an hour and a half before you go on, which 10:30." So around that time, I'll go outside, or if there's somewhere inside, and I'm gonna do maybe 10 sprints, run, jog around, and then I'm gonna go back in there, stretch a little bit, hop up and work pads, and roll around on the ground. I want to go out there sweating. I already want to be sweating, and because I don't get fatigued after I've worked out, unless it's because I train between 2 to 4 or 5 hours a day, so I don't get fatigued unless it's been some time of me doing strenuous training. Which, for example, Thursday night I worked out. I went to my fitness class, which I also participated in. At 6 o'clock I did striking, and then at 7 to 8 I did wrestling, and then after that went to another local gym to cross train and did hit pads. So I definitely I just want to be warm. I want to be sweating when I go out there. I perform my best after a couple hours of training, if that makes sense.
No, it totally makes sense. And I think what's really impressive about it is just you've already thought about that. Sometimes I'll ask these questions and some people are just I haven't really thought about that. I'm like, dude, I don't even fight and I'm asking you these questions. How are you not thinking about this? But the fact that you seem to have everything kind of locked down, you know what works for you, and hey, these are the things, this is my routine. I'm particular about it. I don't want to mess anything up. And the fact that you know what works for you, I think that's super important. There are a couple other really good questions in here too. Somebody wants to know, after you win, what are you going to drink a bunch of beers and eat pizza? That was the question. They're very specific. Are you going to drink, after you win, are you going to drink a bunch of beers and eat pizza?
Let me start off by saying I play rugby. I don't know if you know anything about rugby culture, but my entire rugby team for Chattanooga and the men's team is going to be there. And when I get around my rugby group of people, I've never in my life seen people drink and not die like they do. So I mean, they told me they're going to be pre-gaming in the parking lot, drinking Natural Light. So I have a lot of expectation after the fight to probably shotgun some beers outside of the event, after I leave. I also am a bartender, so, I got sponsored obviously by the bar I work at. So we're probably all going to 100-something people that I know are going to all head there and definitely hang out for a little bit. So I don't know about the pizza part, but definitely some beers for sure.
Definitely some beers. Hey, I love the idea of having a good time after you fight. There's so much work. There's so many sacrifices that you've had to give up in order to be ready for this. Why not treat yourself? And Jazy, before I let you go, I want to give you the opportunity to shout out whoever needs shouting out. I know that you already mentioned the bar's sponsoring you. Do you have anyone else that's sponsoring you, or are there any other people that you'd like to shout out?
I have so many sponsors. I'll list them all.
Well, if it's easier, you could also send them to me, and I can add them all.
Yes, that would work out way better because I have 8 of them.
Okay.
And yeah, it'll take some time, but I do want to shout out, Billy, of course. I mean, he's helped me, to get where I am. Elijah Carlton, he's a world competing jiu-jitsu guy. A lot of people know him, especially in the MMA community. I want to shout him out because he really kind of pushed me to get into combat sports, and yeah, I just want to shout out everyone in my close, circle that have really just motivated me and, supported me doing this with my life. So, and then I'll send you those sponsors.
Yes, ma'am. I am really excited for you to have this opportunity. Again, for everyone that is listening, the fight is next Saturday. So if you are watching this fight, or I'm sorry, not the fight, if you're watching this video and it's like 2 years into the future, I hope the world hasn't melted down. I hope like there still is a planet. And I hope we're all still around. But Jazy, I really appreciate your time. Good luck on your fight next week. I know you're probably going to win. You're really tough. Billy talks really highly of your skills, and you're somebody that he's really, really excited about. So I'm looking forward to not only this fight next week, but many more to come.